Let's quickly talk about this one because I recorded a video on Inter Bayern last week about the first leg, and I unlisted it after maybe 20 minutes because I could see, bro, everybody was talking about Arsenal, Real Madrid. In hindsight, I regret that because I got a lot of people that subscribe to me and that follow me that still want to hear my opinions on the other European teams that maybe don't get as much notice, right? And as you guys know, right, I've said this a few times. Obviously, I don't have a horse in this race. Man United are so far off Champions League, anything, right, that my team's not here. But I've said this numerous times, right? Although I really like Barcelona this season and PSG, I like PSG as well too. For me, I've said it before, I'll say it again. Inter is like, if Man United didn't exist, I would be supporting Inter, I would say. I'm not like a fan of, like a supporter of Inter. Like, I wouldn't go that far, but I have a soft spot for Inter. And I would like Inter to win the Champions League. In fact, before a ball was kicked, the Champions League this year, I said they were my dark horses for it. And I like Inter. I like Simone and Inzaghi. I like their history. My favorite team ever is that 2010 Jose Mourinho team. But yeah, Inter is the team I've said I want to see win the Champions League this year. I won't be mad if Barca win it or something like that. But Inter is the team I want to see win the Champions League this season. So I've watched them a lot this year, and I keep an eye out for them. So I was watching the Inter Bayern tie. And at one point, bro, Real Madrid Arsenal got so bad. I was just like, allow this game, man. Honestly, Arsenal are so much better than them. And I was watching Inter. It's interesting actually because Inter, okay, pun intended. First half, I thought Inter were the much better team. I actually did. I thought Inter created the better chances. Thought they went through on goal a few times. Big saves from the Bayern goalkeeper. But alas, they couldn't kind of get that opener. The way the second half started though, Bayern needing a goal. It was that man that I went on Sky Sports and kind of criticized pretty harshly, right? Harry Kane saying, for me, his resume in big games is too underwhelming for me to really consider him like the S tier level of strikers of the Suarez's and the Henry. Like for me, is just too much of a no-show in the biggest games. I've seen him come up smaller than mini-me countless times in those kinds of environments. I will say, today, the first goal that he scores, first of all, is vintage Harry Kane in terms of getting the ball close to his feet, one little kind of shift onto his right, not showing exceptional pace, but all he needs is kind of just a half yard to kind of get it out of his feet, and then that finish into the bottom corner. From that angle, for me, that is vintage Harry Kane. That is his kind of goal in a nutshell. If you ask me to describe a Harry Kane goal off the top of my head, it would be that goal. So full credit to him because I criticized him for his big miss in the first leg at the Allianz. He showed up today with that goal. And at one point, it looked like a goal that was going to get his team back in the game. Until the other end, Inter, 2 set pieces were ultimately Bayern's downfall. The first one, Pavard with an unbelievable header. First goal for Inter against his former team. Wonderful header. And you know, Pavard, I was saying it on stream, right? I used to really not like Pavard. I always used to watch him on the French team and thought, this guy is average, man. Honestly, like he's an average right back. There's nothing really special about him. And in fact, when he kind of got replaced for Koundé, I was happy. Like I looked at Pavard and I was like, he's replaceable. Sorry, Lautaro scored the first. Okay, Pavard scored the second, excuse me. And I was just look at Pavard. I'm like, he's expendable, right? He's decent. I've grown really fond of Pavard. I still don't think he's exceptional, but Pavard is a really useful player to have. First of all, his versatility is great. He can play in a 4 at right back. He can play in a 4 at center back. And he can play in a center back in a 3 as well too. His passing range from the back is brilliant. He's very technically secure. He's great in the air. He's a very intelligent defender. He rarely gets embarrassed. Honestly, you know what he reminds me of actually? In a Manchester City team in 22-23, when they won the Champions League with like that 4 back line of 4 center backs, Pavard could have played in that team. Like the way Akanji was playing as like half right back, half center back at times. Pavard could have done that role. He could have. You know what, Pavard? I've grown an appreciation for Pavard. And that goal that he took, incredible. He's been really good business from Inter, by the way, who have just made a name of themselves for picking up bargains in the window. Himself, Thuram, Mkhitaryan. Like they just find bargains, players for cheap or damn near free at times, and turn them into vital cogs in their team. Pavard is one of the latest, man. But the first goal, I thought it was the first. Okay, it was the first. Lautaro, the captain, a guy that over the last few years has been so lambasted. Again, similar to Kane, obviously to a different extent, right? But he's been lambasted for his big game repertoire. Lautaro Martinez, that's the biggest criticism about him, right? World Cup final, look at his performances. Inter in the Champions League, look at his performances. And you know what it is, Lautaro? I don't think Lautaro is like the best striker in the world. I do think he has some physical limitations. I don't think he's the best in the world. He's a good striker, very good striker, but I wouldn't say he's like top 5 per se. But I think he deserves a lot more credit on his name. Last year for me, I thought he was the most disrespected player in the Ballon d'Or ranking because of what he did that season. Winner in the Copa America final, top scorer in that tournament as well too, mostly coming off the bench, by the way. I believe he was top scorer in Serie A, won the Scudetto for Inter, scored in the Coppa Italia final, won the Coppa Italia final. He won Serie A MVP for Inter. He was incredible last season, and I really felt his ranking in that overall thing was really, really harsh, because if you wanted numbers, he had the numbers. If you wanted silverware, he had the silverware. If you wanted finals performances, he had that as well too. And I thought he was really snubbed for a higher ranking. This season, I don't actually think has been Lautaro's best year. And I even think Inter as well too. I think Inter were better last year than they were this year. It's kind of crazy to say, but I think they were better last year. They just got unlucky against Atleti on penalties. But Lautaro, for me, it was better last year than he was this year. And it's in fact Marcus Thuram, who for me has been Inter's most impressive striker. But Lautaro over this tie has really been that guy, man. Honestly, the first game, that Trivela past the goalkeeper was exceptional. An incredible finish that if Lewandowski scores that, we're on our feet applauding. If Kane scores that, we're on our feet applauding. If Haaland scores that, we're on our feet applauding. But with Lautaro, I always feel like it's like we're hesitant to really give the guy his flowers. Like, it's a great goal, but he doesn't really do it for me. Today, Johnny on the spot, poacher, finishes that chance, buries it past the keeper. I think he scored in his last 5 Champions League games for Inter. And for a team that is so predicated on their defensive resilience and how difficult they are to break down, a large burden of the attacking responsibility falls on the front two of Thuram and Lautaro, who have struck up a brilliant partnership. But I think that also is a praise that you have to give for Lautaro, because how many different center forwards has this guy played alongside in a front two? And he always makes it work. Everyone has this thing about Lautaro. Oh, he would never be able to lead the line by himself. First of all, I don't know if I agree with that, because he's led the line for Argentina in the past. But secondly, okay, even if that was the case, are there many better strikers in a two than Lautaro? We've seen Lautaro with Lukaku. They won a Scudetto. We saw Lautaro with Dzeko. They went to a Champions League final. We've seen a Lautaro now with Marcus Thuram. They're in a Champions League semifinal and on the cusp of a second successive Serie A title. I think Lautaro deserves a whole lot more credit than he gets, man. I understand he's not everybody's cup of tea. And I'm not trying to tell people, oh, he's the best striker in the world. But at times, I see crazy disrespect for him. He's Inter's top scorer in their Champions League history. He's consistently been that guy for them up front. He's their captain, and he's led them to a second semifinal in 3 years. I think he deserves a lot more credit. I got a lot of love for Lautaro Martinez. 2-1 at this point, you're thinking 4-2 on aggregate. It might be too much for Bayern. And I was looking at the players that Bayern were bringing on, right? Gnabry, Coleman. I'm just thinking to myself, man, Bayern have a lot of work to do in the window, right? I think Joao Painha is going to leave in the summer as well, too. That's kind of been a failure of a signing. They have a lot of work to do. They do. They have some nice players. I really like Pavlovic. I think Kimmich has had an amazing season. I've been a critic of Kimmich in the past, but I think this year he's been exceptional in midfield. Musiala is a star talent. Olise has really had a brilliant first year at Bayern. And it looks like Wirtz might be on the way as well, too. So in that regard, there's a lot of good players at Bayern. I get that. But I think that back line needs a big makeover. Konrad Laimer is a decent player. He should not be your right back going forward. Guerrero. He's okay. He's decent. I don't think Company has really utilized him that well. I think he was better under Tuchel. Upamecano is pretty good. I've always liked Upamecano, but he was injured in this tie. Kim Min-jae has been a flat-out disaster for Bayern. He has been a flat-out disaster ever since his signing for Napoli. And Dyer, who I guess is just reliable whenever you need him, he grabs the goal, which, by the way, was an incredible header from such a tight angle. He's a stopgap as well, too. So I think they need another center back. I think they need some more attacking quality. They probably need some fullbacks as well too. The goalkeeper, I think this guy who's been playing for them since Neuer went out, I think he's probably going to get next season as well too. So this Bayern team, it's kind of a weird situation, man. In fact, it's really giving me Bayern vibes of the late 2000s, where they weren't winning the league every year. They had some quality in the form of Luca Toni and Ribéry and Ballack at one point before he went to Chelsea, but they weren't really that dominant. They weren't that dominant. They would win the Bundesliga on occasion. Sometimes Wolfsburg would take it off them. Sometimes Schalke would take it off them. They weren't dominant in the Champions League. They would often get humiliated by other teams. They were just kind of there. That's how I kind of look at Bayern this year, man. I give credit to Company because I've been really critical of him this season. And if I'm going to be fair, look, he's going to win the Bundesliga. And he took Bayern to a quarterfinal against a really good Inter team. That's not the worst season in the world. It's not, if I'm being absolutely honest. I still have question marks about him. Can he be an elite manager? I still have question marks. It's not the worst season in the world, if I'm being honest. But Bayern are kind of in a weird position now where they're not a bad team. They're a good team, but they're not elite. They're not elite. I don't really view them anymore as Europe's elite. There was a period where in Europe, you had Juve, Bayern, Real, Barca, Atleti. You can make the argument those are the 5 best teams in the world. Bayern have completely fell off. They really have. I think there's big work needed. And the thing with Bayern as well too, right? At board level, there's a lot of uncertainty. I think there's too many cooks in the kitchen up there. I think there's a huge power struggle. You see some guys getting sacked last year. There's rumors about their guy getting sacked this year as well too. It's a weird situation at Bayern Munich. But if I'm giving credit to company, I think it's been a decent debut season for them, man. But as for Inter are in a semi-final in the Champions League. They were my dark horse before a ball was kicked this season. Guys, I think even calling them a dark horse is disrespectful. In Simone Inzaghi, they have arguably the best knockout football manager in the world. I think you can genuinely make the argument for that. Simone Inzaghi in knockout football is a damn genius. This guy's a damn genius. I don't know many managers, if any, that set his teams up to succeed as well as he does in knockout football. And in the league, he's now turned into a serial winner at this rate. But I don't think anybody wants to see Inter. And obviously, Barca are going to have to play them. And I think that tie is so fascinating, bro. Because the style of play from each of these teams, the footballing philosophies, the way these teams kind of get to work, the way they make their bread and butter is completely contrasting. With Barca, you have a team that presses. You have a team that play beautiful, free-flowing football. They're attacking like a chance a minute, it feels like. Heavy down the wings, fullbacks flying forward, Pedri controlling the game. Whereas you have Inter, who aren't boring. I think there's this narrative around Inter that they're just like some boring and standard Italian team. Inter plays some fascinating football as well too. And I think from front to back, in terms of building out from the back and getting to the front, there isn't a team in Europe that does it as well as them. The way they build from the back with Bastoni and these wing backs, the combination of Thuram and Lautaro, Barella kind of being the connector between midfield and attack, between defense and attack, they're fascinating from that point of view. And I think Inter are similar to Arsenal, capable of beating you in so many different ways. So many different ways. And the thing with them as well too that makes them so dangerous in Europe, they're not afraid to suffer. They're not afraid to play ugly. They're not afraid to concede chances. You look at the last 20 minutes of that game against Bayern. That's a typical Catenaccio Italian performance. Sit deep, absorb pressure, defend your box, defend your zone, limit chances, get over the line, go home. Do it again tomorrow. They are capable of beating teams that way. I think that is going to be tough for Barcelona. Another thing with with Inter as well too, the wingbacks. My goodness, DiMarco and Dumfries should be back for that semifinal. He didn't even play in the semifinal. He's so big for them. That's going to be a real struggle for Barcelona to defend against. I'm going to go into like a full actual like breakdown of Inter versus Barca and PSG Arsenal in a different video. But I really think for Barca, this might be the worst possible tie for them. I think Barca stylistically would probably rather face PSG definitely, and maybe even Atletico. Arsenal over Inter. I think this could be a really, really tricky tie for Barca. I really think so. They beat Inter, that might be the toughest team they play stylistically. And I think it's what makes these semifinals so interesting, right? On paper, who plays the nicest football? Who probably plays the best football? I would say it's PSG Barca. But would anybody be surprised if it was Inter versus Arsenal? I wouldn't. I wouldn't whatsoever. I think Bastoni, by the way, in these 2 legs was simply sublime. I think in the first leg, you saw a whole lot more of his ball playing ability. The guy was so crucial, bombing forward, practically playing as a wingback at times for Inter. But this game, I think you really saw the Italian defender side of him. Obviously, he's a brilliant defender, period. I think he's the most underrated defender in Europe. But that big interception on Olise, that last ditch tackle, Olise was basically through. Bastoni, man. I think he's one of the only guys of this Italian national team that can actually chat to the old school legends. He's a brilliant footballer. We saw the return of DiMarco today, which I think is huge for them. Barella put on a show over these 2 legs. And as I said, Lautaro and Thuram, as a center forward duo, their relationship is almost telepathic. Some of the combination play that the 2 have, incredible. They know where each other are without even looking up. I'm really, really impressed by Inter. And I think they're a real tough out for Barcelona, man. I'm not too convinced by Barcelona versus Inter. I think Barca have been damn near perfect this season. Inter could be that one team that really upset them. So shout out to Inter Milan through the semifinal. Like I said, guys, I'll make full breakdowns tactically where I think the games can be won or lost. Who has the most to kind of prove in each of these games. We'll do that in a separate video. Shout out to Inter Milan. Bayern Munich, there's a lot of work to do. We'll see what you guys do in the summer.